This is really
there we go.
now. That was like, I don't know, 15 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
15? All right.
15, 20.
Anyway, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and blame it on StreamYard if we're 15 seconds late.
That there's something wrong with that statement, but I can't put a finger on it exactly. But it sounds wrong.
But it's so right. By the way, I got two machines on. One is saying it's live. The other is saying it's not. Okay, now it just went live. Okay.
Okay, so forgive us if we're a half hour late.
It's like I have one machine in Central Time and one machine on East. Anyway, we're
right.
here. And guess what, folks? You know what we've been doing? We've been bringing the as since 2009. Where are we bringing the as to, by the way? Are we taking it somewhere? Or
I don't know. That's like saying we've been bringing the bagels to brunch since 2009.
Really? Are there blueberry bagels in that brunch?
God, no.
I didn't think so.
They're blueberries, though. Blueberries and cream cheese. See, I wouldn't mind like blueberry cream cheese. That would be okay.
And why not just, I mean, what's the difference if you have blueberries in the cream cheese or blueberries in the bagel? There's blueberries, bagel, and cheese.
I was about to make a relatively sacrilegious comment about cross and Catholicism, but I won't.
Okay, yeah. Say that for another
kind of a metaphorical, it's like kind of thing.
You know what, though? We're missing something. Not the blueberries.
One thing we're missing is the fact we didn't introduce ourselves yet.
I thought we did. We did.
No.
I thought we said we were.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah,
bringing the ads and all that.
We did. That's right. I remember. Yeah. You're right. See that? This is post-COVID loss of memory.
The venerable Paul Greenberg is playing injured today. So
yes, I am. Well, not really. I'm playing healing. Injuries been.
You're coming off the injured reserves list.
That's right. First game back.
First game. By the way, I know you have your priorities straight, so I know we need to be done on time.
Oh no, yeah, you're not kidding. Pre-game, third game, Yankee game is right after this show ends at 4.
Do you have any like Yankees playoff game pre-game rituals or anything before you sit down in front of the TV to watch?
Well, it depends. If it's a weekend game, there will be a glass of something alcoholic with it, right? If it's not a weekend game, no. There usually, though, one thing will happen in the course of not the pregame, the beginning of the game, which was there will be food available for me to eat right next to me.
Now, you're not one of those folks like me where I don't like to be around any human beings. I don't actually like to be around any humans or anything that's alive. Just me and my TV set and preferably the lights off, watching the Rams game solo. But you like watching with people around?
No, in fact, I'm fine. In fact, during the game, I have an ongoing, like occasionally you and I, of course, communicate, but I have an ongoing thing going with Dean Landsman, Scott Jeffer from the Yankees, and my brother. Right. So it's I have 3 conversations that go on all game, pretty much nonstop, and none of them are going on with each other.
I was going to say, so you actually have like these single convos, you, them, you, one with this person, you, one with this person, and they don't ever get a chance. Why don't you just do like a group call or something?
They wouldn't do it. Right. I think, because ultimately we all want to watch the game by ourselves. But at the same time, we're okay communicating. And like with Scott and my brother, it's typically text. With Dean, it's on Facebook Messenger. With you, of course, Facebook Messenger. Right. So the source varies, although Dean's occasional text. It's like, juggling social media platforms is actually the biggest.
It sounds like it's multi-channel, multimodal. Like,
yep, it is. It's the wave of the future. I mean, it's not. Right. I am nonstop with this. By the way, it goes on throughout the night, bitching and moaning. And then, okay, we won.
Yeah. All right. I got something that's really weird here. It's a StreamYard thing. Like I said, I've got 2 machines up. One, I'm not showing any comments. On the other, I'm showing this.
Oh, for God's sake.
What the hell?
I don't know.
StreamYard, what the hell is going on, man? All right, now we can officially, we did enough tap dancing. That's actually a nice short one. And I see, is that Freud?
Freund, it's German. This is straight out German.
Hello, friend.
Hello, my, basically, let's call it, being not loose about it, but kind of making it into a phrase. Hello, my dear friends.
Okay. That's German.
Yeah, it's straight out German.
He took it easy on us this week. Even I knew that. Although I did think there was Sigmund Freud somewhere involved in it. But all right. So yeah, you can let us know that we're right, although we know we're right. And then I got a little bone to pick here.
Oh yeah,
JR Clark here.
He's going.
He always comes in with something snide,
He has to go get you.
All right, let me just read this one out so we can be done with this as soon as possible. JR Clark says, "Hey everyone, I just wanted to kick things off by saying that the Dallas Cowboys haven't been performing up to expectations." Now that's the good part of this. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, sorry, JR. I know we're dear friends and all, but I'm glad.
I don't know why you had to add the last segment in there, the little sentence, but they are better. The only reason that they're better than us right now, JR, it figures that JR is a big fan of Dallas, by the way.
Right. Well,
we're hurt. We're injured. Or we don't even have our top 2 wide receivers. Our offensive line is junk. So due to injuries, you don't have that excuse. You guys are just bad.
And the only reason the Giants are as bad as they are is because they're bad.
Okay, I wasn't going to go there on that one. But
I have to go there. I mean, they are just disgraceful. But
yeah, you're right, Sven. That was an easy one, and we appreciate the easy ones. Thank you so much.
Oh, look at Keith. Keith is
suiting up. He's getting ready.
No, but he's misspelling good.
Well,
I think he is. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe the extra U means something. I don't know.
That instead of that's good, it means that's gut.
By the way, Keith will be part of the show a little later. By the way, we got a great show lined up. And where are the Rams today? I'm guessing they're like practice. I don't know.
I don't know. Sven, give him a call.
By the way, thanks for I love this time of year because we're starting to get colder, and I'm starting to break. I got like tons of brand new Rams hoodies. This is like one of them. So over the course of the next several weeks during the show, I will be breaking out brand new Rams hoodies.
Also a great hat, by the way.
Yeah, that's
the hat. Really, just like
I got gear for days.
That's as.
That's as. Okay.
That's as.
Just make sure you say the Z.
Oh yeah, that's as, dude.
Okay,
turn it into a new word.
That's as, dude.
That's as, dude.
God. All right. Moving along rather rapidly here. I do have one housekeeping. I always have to think before I say it. A housekeeping thing because this happened. I just found out about this a couple of minutes ago. So on an upcoming episode of A Few Good Minutes, I'm gonna be. Do you remember Brad Birnbaum? He's one.
I met him a couple of times. It's not like I didn't know him anywhere near like we say you and I knew. What was it, Alex
Bard?
Yeah, we knew him well. This guy not as well, but I did meet him at least once that I can recall.
Do you remember him at all on any of those CRM Idol calls? Because I'm drawing a blank.
That's just because the way Sicily ended up coming into them, right? They were the let's just say getting acquired in the middle of CRM Idol kind of took them out of the picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we even got that far. I think we agree to let them stay in.
No,
because they hadn't been fully acquired yet.
No, as soon as because we announced them as finalists, and then they announced that they were getting acquired, and then we had to say, all right, well, you don't need us anymore. Damn it, you're just getting bought by Salesforce. So they had to bow out.
Well, I remember John Tashik mobilizing a vote for somebody.
Mobilized. He was
he mobilized. We're getting like dozens of perfectly legal votes for the CRM Idol, but we were getting dozens of them from the same IP address. Right, and
that's right. I remember that they were stuffing the ballot box. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, with the Salesforce office was voting, right? So
it was all from San Francisco.
And I think it was them. It was probably voting them that got them into the finals, and I don't know.
Oh wow! So it was good that they
something
got bought, because we would have had a real scandal on our hands if they had.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
remember it happening. That was fun.
All right. Well, yeah. It was good while it lasted. Let's put it like that.
That's right.
So anyway, that's coming up. Halloween. Ooh, that's spooky. Halloween
Whoa!
should be interesting. All right.
All of a sudden, his smile means something very different.
Yeah, that did. Let me bring that back. Yeah, that could be like
I mean, Halloween
I
now.
might have to like postpone this to November 1st or something.
Yeah.
Although isn't that All Saints Eve or Hallows? I don't know.
All Hallows Eve.
Oh, how? Okay, yeah.
No, that's Halloween, I think. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. We're gonna move on because
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. All right. So one of the interesting reasons why I brought that up is because there's a connection to all that we're leading up to for today's show. Maybe except for the exception of Stump the Godfather. Although there's a connection between this week's Stump the Godfather and what we're going to talk about with our guest.
You're not giving me a break. I'm not recovered.
No breaks.
I'm not recovered from COVID. This is going to send me spiraling back.
We
rebound
do no breaks
COVID
here.
because of this.
No breaks.
I'm going to get rebound COVID because
I'm telling you right now, CRM Playaz is a collision sport, and you'll know why I'm saying that in a second. All right. So about a couple of weeks ago. It was just a couple of weeks ago. I did a few good minutes special, because usually it's just me and one person, maybe two people. But this one was kind of a special deal because, you and I, the CRM Playaz, we've been doing the annual What is CRM in like the year ahead kind of thing. And one of the things I just started thinking about is, what is all this AI stuff doing to the way that investment is being made in enterprise apps, right? And luckily for us, we know quite a few people that used to be like in enterprise application companies, and then they made a transition into either venture capital or private equity or angel investing or seed investing. And I found about a new one, inception investing, which I'll talk about in a second. So I thought it would be cool to do like this special kind of, show that talks about what is the impact of AI on all that stuff, particularly when it comes to enterprise apps, and with the special interest in CX and CRM, since that's where we live, right? And so we invited people that we met. Actually, Alex Bard was a co-founder of Assistly, and they got, of course, bought by Salesforce. And when he went to Salesforce, he worked with Scott Bechuk. And then Scott Bechuk kind of took over and kind of ran things for Desk.com, which is what Assistly turned into once it was bought by Salesforce. So, and they know each other and they like each other. So that's another good part. And then our buddy, our voice of PPN, I like to call him the Golden Smog of CRM still. And he's also known as the Midas Martech. And now he's known as Kid AI. And I believe Christy Tupper gave him that nickname.
Kid AI. Wow.
Kid AI. That's a good one.
Christy, man.
Christy coming through. So I got them together, and we just wanted to, I just wanted to bring them together and just have a rap, not a contest, just a rap session. Just talking. I'd have to get like Jeff Wartgall. No, I'm not gonna do that.
No.
Anyway, so I got them together, and we just started talking, and conversation was so great. And I'm going to play you this a little taste of that conversation because it's leading to what we're going to be talking about today. So let me see if I can bring this up.
Is there for a new startup in the enterprise space that comes out of like nowhere and upends what's currently going on, and maybe even upends the big boy on the street, Salesforce? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most likely, how likely is that scenario to happen?
I think it is more likely than it's ever been, to be honest. It's seldom that companies stay in the prime sort of disproportional share of the market position for 30, 40, 50 years. Now, the incumbents today, I think, are much more powerful than they've ever been in the past. They move much more aggressively. They have more resources. They're self-disruptive. And Mark is a visionary. He will not sort of let the light dim. But I'm a believer in startups, and I'm a believer in innovation. And while incumbents have distribution and data advantage, startups have, I think in this case, business model and agility, innovation advantage.
I'm gonna cut it right there because we could go on forever. But I just thought that was that kind of I needed to know more. I needed to hear more. I need to get other perspectives. So that was Alex Bard from Red Point Ventures and Scott Beachuk. Those guys from Norwest Venture Partners, they kind of are a little bit bigger. Norwest is definitely bigger, but they kind of go in their investment from beginning all the way up to these companies really good and big and going public. Then I was told, you know what, you should get another perspective, and that perspective would come from a guy by the name of Ed Sim, who is what he runs Bold Start Ventures, and I thought he was going to talk about seed invest, but he kind of even made another distinction. He called it inception investing, and if you get the chance to check out that whole conversation, that is really interesting because now we're going from like he wants to talk to company or people before they even actually build the company up to even to a certain extent. And it's low. It's a smaller investments over time that then will lead into bigger things, maybe with them or maybe with other venture companies. But he said something that was really interesting on top of what they said. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to hold out something I have from him when we introduce the panel. So once again, the conversation, all these things are coming up about agentic workflow automation and how things that are they want to deal with companies that are looking to reimagine workflow and not just do incremental changes. And the workflow is being driven by agents. And so it's like, oh man, this is really interesting. And then it got to a point where they're saying stuff like what Ed was saying. I think I have a little thing about this. Agentic workflow is a massive opportunity for people to treat bits and pieces of Salesforce just like a database. So it's like, that's not how you look at Salesforce today. And all these guys are saying is this is how you might not look at enterprise applications. They're not going to look the same as what we're used to. And it's all being driven by what's going on with AI and what AI can do. And this whole, Salesforce is already talking about Agent Force. And now Ed Sim is taking it even a step forward and saying, well, Agent Force, agents might be the things that really change the game and make Salesforce not the way that we view Salesforce anymore. So I was like, yeah, we need to do more of this. So now we've got our buddies, people that we've known for years that have been involved in all sorts of investing and all sorts of enterprise applications, serial entrepreneurship, joining us to further that conversation, but not yet because you know what we have to do.
And now it's time for Stump the Godfather with the venerable Paul Greenberg, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot.
You could not get out of Benny. Come on, man. You know you're not getting out of Benny.
I feel sick. I got to take my temperature.
But it will make this a quick one. But it's a good one because actually one of our folks on the show today gave me this information. So
doesn't make it any better.
You can thank Keith Teare.
I don't care.
You can thank Keith Teare for this week's Stump the Godfather,
Keith,
brought to you.
If you're smart, don't come on the show.
Brought to you by
Leave the green room as fast as you can.
365 Copilot. We need to really update that. Anyway, here is this week's question. I hope I don't mess this up. Oh, thank goodness I didn't. All right, here it is. And everybody who's commenting and even our guests in the green room, we would love for you to participate. So, according to a recent report, private market funding is growing again and at pre-pandemic levels. What percentage of private market funding today is being driven by Gen AI? That's a pretty straightforward question. It's back to pre-pandemic levels. It's growing. And what percentage of that growth is due to Gen AI? Now we got some smart. Keith, you cannot answer this because you're the one that gave me the information. You got to sit this one out, Keith.
No, why don't you answer it in the private chat?
No, he can't do that.
That'd be good.
Keith has to sit this
then
one
you
out.
Can come on the show.
Everybody other than Keith can take a guess at this. By the way, Brian Summer is going to town. Let's take, while we look for some guests to come in the comment section. Let's see what Brian is talking about. Incumbents who keep their founder leaders often outperform those incumbents that bring in professional managers and short-term focus. That's what Ed was saying yesterday. Professional managers are often brought in to complete some big transaction or liquidity event. To that end, they are rewarded for ST financial gains, short-term, I guess, at the expense of long-term growth. All right, that's good. All right, that's interesting. Let me go to his other thing here. Please throw your guesses in there. What percentage of private market funding today is being driven by Gen AI? Percentages. Okay. So Brian is saying radically reimagine processes, some of which are powered by agentic AI, are the most important currency of modern. Yeah, that's a really good statement. Platforms and generic apps are a dime a dozen. Yeah, which is so interesting because that's what everybody was rushing to do in previous tech evolutions. Now, workflows, agentic AI workflows, currency of modern apps. That's interesting.
So, anyone guessing?
No guesses yet. Come on, folks. We need some guesses.
Because
the show will not go on.
Over, man.
The show will not go on till I see some guesses. Brian, JR, LinkedIn user, whoever you are. Sven.
It says NL is LinkedIn user.
I don't know who NL is.
I don't either. It says NL here. Thanks for sharing.
It's not
LinkedIn user. Put in your full name.
Nancy Leary. I don't think we have any Learys named Nancy. But. I see our other guests in the green room. Please feel free to take their. All right. Okay. Larry had 2 guesses.
No, just duplicate.
No. Okay. All right. Larry Augustin, who will be joining us shortly, is coming in with 40%. Come on, Brian. Come on, JR. Let's see what JR is saying in this quote. Newsflash, CRM players, did you know one of the largest recipients of funding in the AI enterprise app space is OpenAI? Well, they got a lot of money from Microsoft, that's for sure, which has raised significant amounts, including a notable $10 billion from Microsoft. Other major players. This sounds like a ChatGPT answer, actually. Other major players include Anthropic, which raised $7.7 billion, and Databricks, which raised $43 billion. JR, did you run that through ChatGPT? Just let us know. All right, so we've got Sahil coming in at 65%. Brian, okay, so Brian did run this through. Genii 30%.
That's 100%.
Okay, Brian, 100%. That's okay. Interesting. All right, so we got 40, we got 65, we got 100. Come on, Anand. I see you in there. You need to join us so we can move on and get you guys actually on the show here. All right. So the venerable Paul Greenberg, I know you're playing injured. I know the Yankees are coming on soon.
Yeah, so the answer is number 7, Mickey Mantle. Number 7, Mickey Mantle. Woo. Number 99, Aaron Judge.
I like 99 for Aaron Donald. There
you go. Aaron equals 99.
Oh, well, all right. So what's your guess?
It says driven by Gen AI here.
Yeah, that's what the actual question was.
Right. So I'm coming in at 33.
JR is coming in at $0.
35. I'm coming at 35.
$0. Okay, that's okay. 40%. It went from $0 to 40%. All right.
I'm coming in lower. 35.
So you got 35. So we got 35. We got 40. We got 65. And Brian coming in strong. Well, he's saying Gen AI is 30%. Okay. So we'll keep him at 30%. The answer to this week's Stump the Godfather question is, and I'm thinking Larry and JR probably had access to this or something. I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. We missed.
They had access to Keith.
Yeah. Everybody needs access to Keith. All right. JR. Okay. So he had the report too. He's telling us he didn't just guess. He said the answer is 40%. All right, it's 40%, and this is what it looks like. This is coming from. Thank you, Keith, for providing this report as a good way to start the conversation. But yeah, 40% of market investment is generative AI. 40%.
40% of the recovery is driven by generative AI.
Yeah.
What is that? I'm trying to figure out what
it means that the total amount is 79.2 and 40% of that is generative AI based. JR, we said you got 40%, man. You got it. Calm down. We got you.
I know.
All right. All right. Okay. So with all that in mind, let's do away with this. By the way, that this week's question was brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot. Now, to bring on our guest. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't need to do that. Although I like Little Benny. Now, we have 3 guests, and we're going to continue this conversation about what impact AI is having on enterprise apps from a investment perspective. And this time we're kind of looking more like the angel investing, the seed investing, kind of that earlier investing. Yeah. Ed talked about inception investing, which is really interesting, but he's not here to talk about it. If you want to hear about that, watch the show. So I turn things over to the venerable Paul Greenberg for today's introduction.
I'm going 2 for 3 here because I'm leaving Keith to you. Okay. So we have 3 extraordinary guests. Okay, we know that. 1, Larry Augustin. Now, I've known Larry since 2000. I think it was actually 2005. I was on a stage in California somewhere. I was keynoting SugarCRM's conference. Larry was not the CEO at the time, but he was a major investor, and he was coming up to speak after me. And I, as I always do, went way too long, went over time. And afterwards, I found out that Larry had graciously given up some of his time to allow me to finish, I went to him and thanked him. And from then on, love this man. I mean, he's not just an investor; he's a visionary investor, and he's always been. And this goes pre-Sugar, even before your CEO, before he was even invested in CRM. He always understood not where the market just was, but where it was going, and which is where I've always found him different than others. He understood the value of the products and the companies that he might invest in and the kind of impact they're going to have on actual people who are using it. It wasn't just, it's going to make money, here's why it's going to make money. It's also, here's why it's visionary because of this. Okay. And he's pretty uncanny as far as it goes. And he's also, by the way, an amazing foodie, loves cats, right? Like me. And we talk that all time. And a wonderful person.
But can I give him a nickname, since you said he kind of, you basically said he skates not to where the puck is, but where it's going to be. So we're going to call Larry the Wayne Gretzky of fund investment, enterprise app investment. He is not the Greg, but the Wayne Gretzky. All right. So who's up next?
All right. Up next, we have Anand Thakur. You already introduced him. We've introduced this guy 1,000 times because he is, he's part of PPN, really. I mean, he really is.
He's the James Earl Jones of PPN.
He is our voiceover, but he's also, as you said, he's the Golden Smog. He's the Midas of MarTech. He's Kid AI now.
Yeah.
The thing with Anand, though, which distinguishes him aside from being very wise about what he invests in and what he does with it, is that he has a very powerful, and it is powerful, social conscience. And that social conscience is he's always looking at what can I do for the good of the human species, basically, in some capacity, very slice off here, slice off there, whatever, with the money that I've made. And, and that's just who he is. It's not like extra or he has to think about it. It's just part of his DNA, and his kindness actually comes across at an individual level. He's always there to help. He's always there to lend a hand to somebody who needs help. He's an extraordinary person and a hell of an investor, and has one of these networks that he doesn't really talk about, but anytime something is, you want to do something, he says, oh yeah, I know 5,253 people who do that. I can help you. Right.
So that number off the top of your head, by the way, because I
thought that was next week's Stump the God.
Oh, okay. Well, right. You're wrong, but okay.
Oh, okay. Well, what can I say? My mind is addled from COVID. So And then finally, Keith Teare. Now, I don't know Keith that well, but I've watched him a lot. And there's two things about Keith. Four. One, first, he very, very strongly opinionated, but it's intelligent opinions. It's not like, just a big mouse from somewhere, right? These are intelligent opinions.
Hey, Keith, I didn't tell him to say that, by the way.
Right? They're thought out, right? And when you hear what he has to say, your response is, that makes sense. Okay, that's first thing. The second thing,
unless your name is Steve Gilmore, but anyway.
Right. Well, that's just it's part of the show, right? What can I say? Second thing is, Keith is, I guess the best way to put this, he understands the value of, I'll call it social media, but it's more than that. He understands the value of external interaction with the world, and he goes out and he puts it out there what he has to do. But tied to that is he's a AV tech geek, just like we are.
Yeah,
right. He loves the stuff, and he's always thinking about it and how to make his production better, how to make his he's one of those people who thinks top of the chain when it comes to AV. Like, in other words, AV is part of the experience, not just something you have to keep from distracting from the experience, right? So he's always thinking in those terms too. And fourth, every time I watch him, he's got a smile on his face. So
you must not have watched a lot of Gilmore Gang.
No, I look, Gilmore Gang is very, how would I put this? It doesn't reflect much of everything else, right? It just reflects what's going on with the Gilmore Gang. Right, so it's just, everybody's personality is not the same as the rest of their life on that show, right? So it's fun. That's, by the way, on the other hand, watch it. It's one of the best shows on television. Anyway, I don't have much. I don't talk Keith much.
You said you talk like that. You say at the end you don't have much.
No, I don't. I don't. But I'm observant.
Okay. Well, I'll move this along.
And I read that was the week that was. So
okay. Yeah, okay. It's a show too, by the way.
It's a show, and by the way, also the name has a very specific history not related to that show.
Man, I would love to hear you intro somebody that you really know a lot, because that was interesting. All right,
I'll introduce you next show.
All right, let's bring them on. So Larry Augustin, Anand Thakur, Keith Teare. Thank you all for joining us, man. This is great.
Always thrilled to be on. It's fun. I've missed you guys.
Yeah, we'll have you on anytime you damn well want, man.
Yeah. Be careful what you ask for, Larry. Be careful what you ask for, Larry. Yeah.
It's kind of it's therapy, right? I learned a lot about myself just then.
Hey, Anand, you're coming in kind of hot. Can you lower your audio just a tad? There you go. So I thought I'd start this in a kind of a different manner. I didn't even let the venerable Paul Greenberg know, but I have this clip from Ed Sim that I just got yesterday, and I'd love to get your take on it and see where this takes the conversation. So this is Ed Sim from Bold Start Ventures yesterday.
Great joke. My son played football for a year, and I remember the coach sitting down and telling the kids, they're 10, football is not a full contact sport. It's a collision sport. and by the way, that's what I like to say about startups. Gen AI startups right now is not a full contact sport right now. It's a collision sport. Strap on your helmet. It's going to get cracked. You're going to pick yourself off the floor. You can get decked. You're going to get concussions. But, if you keep getting up, you're going to build something really big.
Yeah, and that will be a clip too, Alan, just to let you know. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part. Alan was telling me, do you need to clip this? All right, anyway. So, gentlemen, whoever wants to tackle this, do you think Ed has something? Is he right about what's going on with Gen AI and investing in startups? Is it a collision sport?
I'll go first.
I don't know what collision sport means in investing or startups, but there are so many of them out there right now that almost any space you pick, you're going to collide with other people. and there's a lot. And I firmly believe we're going to go through a, I don't know, trough of disillusionment around some of this stuff because, first of all, I'm a firm believer in AI native, as I call it, behind all these things. So we're going to see a lot of super interesting stuff out there. But a lot of, we're also going to see a lot of companies hit the wall because there's just too many. There's just too many.
I think the key question is it even a sport? You know, because for it to be a sport, there have to be players with a chance of winning the game. And I think AI is so different to the previous rewriting of the canvas we all built on top of. You know, it's different to the web. It's certainly different to the PC era, and it's different to the mobile era, because all of those were characterized by infrastructure that you could build on top of. And a lot of the value went to the people who built on top of the infrastructure. AI is so different because it is not impossible to believe that the infrastructure guys end up owning everything, that there is no space for verticals or even, you know, horizontal plays, because the user interface for ChatGPT, and when you introduce agents into it, is going to be able to do almost everything. The phrase that I read yesterday was AI is eating software. Well, another way of thinking about that is AI can eat the layers that you normally expect to exist in a tech stack and render them unnecessary. And that then leaves the question and kind of answers the puzzle. Why is all the money going to the infrastructure guys, or most of the money, not all of it? Well, because that may be the smart play, even at the valuations that money's being raised at.
Hanan?
Do I sound better here?
You sound lower, much lower. You were high one time and low this time.
High, a little better now.
Still,
Higher,
no.
higher.
There
That came in real loud there. Something
all right, how about
in.
now? All right.
Yeah, I think
hopefully this will be it.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I agree with Larry. I don't know what collision sport represents versus the other. I'm not sure what's being referenced in that capacity. If it is something about the noise in the industry and trying to kind of reframe how you think about things, one of the
I think it was also the competitiveness. Now, I think what Ed was saying, when he's been at it for 28 years, and for a long portion of that, he didn't have what he saw as like a lot of competition for what he was trying to do. But with Gen AI, that seems to have changed dramatically. There's lots more competition, and there's lots more folks trying to get involved in it than ever before. So I think that's what he was talking about.
So if he's referencing that perspective, I'd like to take people back to the financial industry and how much that had changed in terms of who could actually make trades in a financial market, right? It was initially you had to only go through brokers. It was institutional folks who really engaged, wealthy folks, right? There were only certain people who could actually access that market. But today, anybody can trade any type of thing within that market. And think about how much the dynamics of the financial markets industry has changed as a result. I'm trying to pick something that's relevant to all of us, right? So the same thing is happening with AI. Yes, there's more competitors. There's certainly more avenues for value creation in that way. There's certainly more noise about what's right, what's not. Even the sort of the dynamics of what is working and what's not can be even gone from a typical year-long window to minutes. So your thesis can be broken or made, from minute to minute now. So AI is going through the same thing. You've got more people using AI. We've all heard that. And if that's the reference, that Ed was talking about, this is perhaps where to reframe it in that way. How do we think about AI when there's so many more people that are involved in it, who are really truly delivering value? But how much can one person do and then be able to break through that noise or create that market share? I think that's the question to wonder in this sort of collective market here.
So if this is the case, and I mean, look, if I'm looking at AI generally, I'm seeing, more and more, I'll call them use cases, but now we're kind of at a point where we got to go beyond even use cases. We've got to get to the point where people are using it, right? I mean, actually, like it's actually being used, not just finding ways it can be used. And I find myself using it as a consumer, really, and an individual all the time. It's like Copilot's replaced Google search as my primary way of looking for things. And does it always work? No, definitely doesn't. But it does a lot better than Google search does, and aggregates a lot of things that I would otherwise have had to aggregate myself, and so on and so forth. So, but the issue there is there's a comfort zone evolving that allows me to say, okay, that's the way I'm going to go. All right. So that's one thing. On the other hand, if what you're saying, Keith, is the case, and the infrastructure guys become kind of the core, well, the infrastructure guys are big. I mean, they're already big, and they're not things, let's say, the three of you are going to be investing in, except as, let's say they're not your high risk investments, right? Or you're not even your mid-level risk investments, really. I mean, they're basically, you're investing in ServiceNow, Salesforce, Microsoft. I mean, you want to buy their stock, go buy their stock. So my question becomes, if this becomes the case, and goes also to your point, Larry, which is that there are so many damn things out there that are pretending at least to be, well, they're all pretending to be revolutionary. None of them are, but they're pretending to be at least important. What are the factors you're looking at that say, okay, I still first question is, do you want to invest in AI related companies? And if so, what are you looking for that allows you to say, all right, I'm willing to take the risk, given everything everyone just said, while at the same time marches on and maturity starts emerging, right? So how do you even think about that?
So I think we're going through a fundamental re-architecture of applications right now with AI at the core. AI native is a term we throw around about this. But it's not unlike what we went through in the SaaS revolution, where SaaS started out, people took an existing on-premise app, they threw it up in the cloud, and you did this lift and shift, and people could access it through the web, but it wasn't cloud native, it wasn't SaaS native yet. And then you went through another generation where people re-architected the apps to really take advantage of what you could do by having a shared multi-tenant infrastructure out in the cloud that allowed you to both lower costs, increase features, capabilities, accelerate development, et cetera. And the SaaS native apps really pushed ahead in that. I think we're going through that fundamental re-architecture now around AI. And the statement, Brent, you played earlier about, Salesforce becoming a data store, the database behind the thing, I think is dead on accurate with this, because for decades now, we've built enterprise apps around the database schema. I mean, just go back, look at all the CRM stuff. The early CRM stuff was a thin layer on top of a particular schema. And as we got more sophisticated, we got better at that. And the tables got more complicated, and the UI layer, made it seem less like it was a single table, but we were still spending all our time figuring out how to take all of this information and stuff it down into this database schema. So we were taking effectively an analog world. We had massive amounts of unstructured data and quantizing it down to this database where we lost a lot of fidelity and we lost a lot of information. And it was useful to us. I'm not saying it wasn't, right? But we're at a place now where that whole concept of how we build an enterprise app can change. That is, all of that analog, unstructured data, that's the core stuff. We're not getting rid of that anymore. That stays, right? And that becomes the center. And the reason we can work with that massive amount of unstructured data now is that we have machine learning, AI, LLMs. And they can help us. They enable us to work with that data, whereas we couldn't do it before. So now that structured element becomes something that sits off to the side. So instead of it being the center of the app, all of that unstructured data, the LLM, that's the core. And yeah, we're still going to have this quantized stuff that sits at the side because it's really good at doing things like counting and answering some specific questions that we, have to ask typically around reporting and financials, right? But it isn't the core. It's a thing that sits at the side. And when apps start being rebuilt that way, they can be completely change the workflow of how they help the person. They can give us a lot more information. And it's that re-architecture that I think is going to change how we build, develop, use all these apps. And I think that's why we're at such a junction and you see so many companies now, because we have now this fundamental opportunity to change how we think about building these things and fundamentally the problems that they can solve. And that's just super exciting. And so you see a lot of people out there starting to jump on and rebuild with that. And it does create collision. We'll have a lot of companies that appear because of it, but they're appearing because of this fundamental change of architecture that absolutely is happening now.
So Larry, I would double click on something you said that you said very meaningfully, but a listener might not fully understand the importance of it. And that is the distinction between structured and unstructured data. LLMs, and I code to a Snowflake backend doing predictive analytics on venture investments, like which companies are going to do well or not, and it's highly structured. And an LLM is useless for me because it just can't deal with it. So I use machine learning a lot, and I use heuristics, but I don't use LLMs because now I have a whole bunch of unstructured data around that, like Crunchbase records or Preqin or PitchBook records that my Snowflake database is useless for. And so unstructured data has not been the core of enterprise software at all up until now. It's been structured data. Accounting packages, analytics packages, you name it. CRMs with, efficiency for sales reps and so on, all of that. LLMs basically give you qualitative understanding from unstructured data that can inform decisions, but are not currently going to replace all of that middleware that you've built up to do the structured stuff. Now I think that's going to change, because I think once an LLM has the ability to run Python code and input and data and extract results, you've basically got a brain as well as a statistics machine on words and numbers. And so I do expect that the application layers are going to be the next in line for disruption. And that's what I think the meaning of agents is. I think agents really are mini AIs that have compute engines that can. I was an investor in UiPath back in 2016, and UiPath was all about automating all these workflows. Right. And it's still around. It's lost a lot of value. There isn't much better than it that's come up. Maybe I'm wrong and you know better than that. There may be something, but I'm not aware of anything really super much better than UiPath. But I think UiPath is going to be blown out of the water by what comes next, because I don't think you'll need it.
Yeah, I guess I'll, going back to the investing part of it, right? I think when I'm looking into, let me put it in context, right? We're talking about angel and seed investing. It's very different when you get into growth later. So for the angel investing, the firms that I've been working with who want me to be, part of those conversations, I do this counterintuitive thing. If they have to use AI to describe their value proposition, then just go ahead and scratch them off, because it's not about any of that. It's not about the technology. It is definitely about data, but structured, unstructured. But what problem are you solving? And if you have traction, how are your customers seeing the value of the startup that you're building? Because otherwise, there's always going to be a new AI. There's always going to be a new algorithm. There's always going to be an evolution of these things. And understanding how having more capability to change how you do business is far more valuable than simply the technology behind it. And, I mean, we all know this. And so I've been able to, for instance, there was a time period for about 2 or 3 years where machine learning and every, startup that was doing machine learning came out and said, we are AI and all of this, right? But the problem was that the businesses and the customers were not really harnessing the value out of it. So they were excited about using ML, but they never really understood really the scope of what it could be done. They really didn't understand how to train their folks to rethink the way that they're using it. And then so what ended up happening is most of the startups they did not have sticky customers and started losing to Excel spreadsheets. Right. So I think it's going back to some fundamentals where if you're talking about what problem are you solving, and that's whether you're inside an enterprise or whether you're a startup, if you have to describe that you're using AI and that's your part of your value proposition, then I don't think that you're going to get very far for very long.
AI for the sake of AI isn't.
Well, yeah, and but everybody,
right?
It's what right, and Larry, everybody says that. Right. Everybody knows this, but yet I hear it over and over again. We use AI, we use Gen AI, we use LLMs. I don't care. Like, what problem are you solving it, and to what degree are you solving it, and how are your customers seeing it? Because that's what they pay for. You could have a hamster wheel. And
what's interesting about AI now is that it's letting us solve problems that we couldn't solve before.
Right, but you should be able to describe what those problems are
exactly
when you're going in. So as an from an investor perspective, that's what they're looking at. That's what you should see, and that's how you would want to approach things. The other half of this, or this little piece, and I won't go as long as I did before on my little tirade here, but it's the co-founders themselves, right? It's how adaptable are they? Not only how well do they understand the value proposition and of course the market they're going after, but also the founders themselves, right? They have to be, especially if you're going after the enterprise, there is a certain set of characteristics that you need to see in founders, even if, at these particular early stages, and you're almost betting on them more than the AI-based startup that they're building. Because so much, if we have any lesson to be learned about this, is all this will change in 2 years. And then we're going to be having a whole nother conversation. It might still be AI-based, right? It covers a lot of ground. But let's talk about what is the problem to be solved and how are customers actually solving it.
And a good question, and I think it's a super hard question, is how do you distinguish, even when there's a problem to be solved, how do you distinguish between a feature and a business? I remember back in 1997, I was the founder of Real Names, if any of you are old enough to remember Real Names. And Steve Jobs, my co-founder was Steve Jobs, CTO from Next. And we went to meet Steve Jobs. And Real Names was a keyword to a URL. You could type in a keyword in Chinese, let's say, and go to a website without knowing the URL. And Jobs said, it's a feature. And I argued like the devil with him, saying, fuck off. It's not a feature. This is a whole operating system for navigation. Imagine speaking a URL. You'll never do it, but you can speak a keyword. And it turned out he was right. It's a feature. I mean, it's built into Chrome today. It's built into every browser. And it feels to me as if a lot of the AI things are going to be swallowed up as small features of a big infrastructure. And it's super hard to know what will have resilience, even if it gets early traction. And we got early traction. We filed for an IPO with Real Names. It still was a feature. So it's super hard, I think, to figure out. And it feels to me like with AI, more things are going to be features than any other re-architecting we've ever seen.
And worse, Keith, what you just said is they're probably going to get early traction. So it's going to be even harder for us to tell.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer that, I think it's a great comment and excellent perspective as always. And I do follow your blog, so it's always refreshing to see a new perspective on things. But to determine whether in the AI world, whether something is a feature or a product, a business, is going to be incredibly far more difficult. But I would say that way that you're thinking about it from such an early stage, you're an early stage investor because you just know that there is a big problem to be solved, and whether they're going to accomplish it or not is going to be a road ahead. And that's why investing back into the founder, if they have to adjust and navigate across different sectors or different technologies or different capabilities is important. You're not going to know. It's okay. Right. And yes, they are, Larry, going to have a lot of traction. It's just the world we live in, right? AI was supposed to expedite our ability to build and expedite our ability to be able to go to market. And now we are going to see a lot more as a result of it. Back to, the financial market, example. So many more people are investors now, and there's so many different dynamics and perspectives and so many different ways people are generating returns in that manner and a lot of losses as well. And that's what we're going to see a lot of as well. But, keeping your head down and certainly thinking about how how your investment or your founders or portcos are going to be able to adapt is an incredibly important asset within an organization.
All right, you guys are just talking about such dramatic changes that are underway or should be underway or will be underway at some point. How does that change the way that you go about doing what you do when you're looking to invest in companies?
So I'll start off again, and then you could be done, listening to me. But lately I've been on the other side, right? Where most of my endeavors have been private equity oriented, and I've been, obviously exploring the space. And so I work with a lot of traditional organizations. The biggest challenge will be, how do you enable an organization to change the way they do business in order to adapt and use AI? It's not just about bringing an AI leader in. It's not just about, certainly saying we're going to hire a consultant. It's not about buying a particular product. If that organization as a whole, and certainly industries as a whole, are not adapting to leverage AI or adapt to use AI or understand its value within their own industry, then it's very challenging. And I urge everyone who's investors, certainly, or even founders, outside of the tech industry, how is AI truly growing and creating that value creation? And if you're not seeing it out there, then it will be very limited to tech, and you should invest accordingly as a result of that.
I kind of had this experience over the summer. I have a 17-year-old who had a medical issue last year and missed a lot of school. And he did some summer school, and then we went on vacation. He had to do 2 semesters of English whilst on vacation. And it was a single question with 4 possible answers, like 400 of these questions. And he did them and fed an image of his answer to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to give reasoning why he was either right or wrong in his answer. And it was amazing to watch. It made me think that, why have we got schools and teachers doing the job? Conveying knowledge and scoring tests probably isn't a job for a teacher anymore. There is a job for a teacher, but it's probably a different job to do with mentoring or coaching kids, all kinds of quality stuff that a teacher doesn't have time to do these days. And so as I think about what's happening, and when you're an investor, you have to, you because of your own business model, you have to think of the biggest possible impact of the thing. You've got to go after dramatic change, not incremental. It feels to me as like the entire education system, which is really government money coming from our taxes, probably not just education as well, is low-hanging fruit to be completely reinvented on a much lower cost base with a much higher quality of service. So I think about things like that. Now, in my day job, I don't do that. I use AI, and I use the term loosely, because it's really machine learning and statistical probabilities using heuristics. But I use it to score venture-backed companies based on the track record of their investors. And so we've got 20 B rounds that we did this year, which is a lot. Only 2 other funds have done more than 20 B rounds this year. And every single one is the result of scoring. So the other thing I do is, how can I use it in my job? How can I make my job better using it? So that's going to be 2 answers.
Larry, you want to take us out?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I don't know that I have a great answer to this, other than I always look for, in some ways, the things I look for in companies haven't changed. Okay. Um, I look for businesses that can be transformational in their industry or solving big problems. I have this mantra: it's just as easy to build a big company, or just as hard to build a big company as build a small company. So you might as well build a big company. I like people who are thinking big. That doesn't mean that you start, your doesn't mean your first product solves everything. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily spend a lot of money to start, but it means that you think about how what you're doing could have a big impact in a large way and ultimately be very transformational across the business. I look for people that think that way. I look for people that know that their competition is not going to come from the existing big vendors, but it's going to come from somebody else building something transformational to start. And they're understanding how to take advantage of these changes, these fundamental changes in architecture that we see. And to some degree, none of that has changed, right? And you see people that pop up with a thin layer of something on top of AI, to a comment. Those are probably the people that show up and say AI. And oh, by the way, we do this little piece of value. It's like, no, that isn't going to get there, right? That's like the people who in the early days of SaaS just said, hey, yeah, what's our advantage? Oh, it's on the web. Well, that's not your differentiation. It's on the web, right? Now, you may have been able to do new things because you've chosen a SaaS native architecture. Tell me about those new things and tell me about how that's different and how you're solving the problem in a better way because of that. It's the same way with AI here, right? We're solving problems. What really excites me in all of this is there are things that we wanted to do 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or even 5 years ago that we now have a way that we think we can get there. And by the way, Keith, to a big part of your point, so much money and so much talk goes into LLMs, but applying ML across a whole set of applications, I actually run away from the LLM kind of investing stuff and think about, you've figured out how to apply machine learning to a particular problem that lets you solve something that we couldn't write an algorithm for. But now with enough data, we can apply machine learning towards, and we can get some answers that, we couldn't get before. Yeah. I think those are super interesting. And I think people undervalue what we can do with machine learning beyond LLMs right now. So Keith, I think that's a super insightful observation, the way you keep dialing back from LLM to ML. Super insightful.
Larry, we needed to have Keith on because he never gets to talk about any of this stuff on Gilmore Gang. So we had to give him a chance to talk about this stuff. This is great. And by the way, Anand, I'm kind of disappointed in you because you didn't even mention the fact that you bought one of those GPUs and, spent all that, maybe for another show. Could have showed off.
I want to hear about that.
We did a whole show on that when it was Andreessen Horowitz committed to buying 20,000 GPUs from NVIDIA. And then Anand, just matter of fact, yeah, I have one of those. Like, all right, let's talk. Let's hear more about this stuff. We'll give you a link to that show there, Keith, because we have to get out of here because Paul is getting ready to do his pregame rituals for the Yankee game.
All right.
So there's a Yankees game going on today? What?
5:00.
Wow.
I know. I'm just
5:00. That's announcing one announcement generally on January 21st and 22nd, IRL 2025. We have a keynote speaker. It's Brian Solis. He will be talking about mind shift in his new book. There will also be, since it's 200 people that we are hoping will come, and all the people on this show are on the invitation-only list that will be coming in November. There will be 200 copies of the book there also. So January 21st, 22nd, leave it open. Get yourself to Atlanta Tech Village, IRL 2025. And the irony of that whole thing is we will be celebrating the 15th anniversary of CRM Playaz on our 16th anniversary.
Almost to the day, too, because I think the anniversary is January 24th.
Yep. So
we've been planning this event for like a year. And when we started planning the event, it was going to be for our 15th anniversary. Yeah, so we're going to celebrate our 15th anniversary on our actual 16th anniversary. That's just how we roll with the CRM Playaz, I guess.
That's right.
That's how we bring the ass. Anyway,
we're keeping in character.
Yeah. So on behalf of, first of all, thank you all for joining us. That was I couldn't say it any better than JR, except for I think one of those Larry should be a Paul. Just so we have it all straight. But yeah, this was an amazing conversation. And yes, JR, the Yankees are still in the playoffs.
That's all right. He's a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. So on behalf of Anand, Keith, Larry, I'm Brent.
I'm Paul.
And we are the CRM Playaz, even though we didn't say our last names. And of course, we don't end. Well, that's not how I
Whoa.
Did I mean to get that one? This is how we typically end, saying bye to many, and we'll say hello to you guys next week.